The morning of October 14, 2009, began like any other Wednesday in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. The autumn air carried the scent of fallen leaves and pumpkin spice from the local coffee shops along Haddonfield Road. Children's laughter echoed through the tree-lined streets as yellow school buses made their rounds through the quiet suburban neighborhoods. It was the kind of peaceful morning that made people feel safe, the kind that made parents believe their children were protected by the invisible shield of community trust. Rachel Parker stood at the kitchen window of her modest two-story colonial home on Maple Avenue, watching her 7-year-old daughter Emily tie her shoelaces on the front porch. The little girl's blonde ponytail bounced as she concentrated on making the loops, her tongue sticking out slightly in that adorable way she had when focusing on a task. Emily wore her favorite pink jacket, the one with the butterfly patch Rachel had sewn on after the original zipper broke. Her purple backpack, covered in stickers of cartoon characters, sat beside her, bulging with textbooks and a lunchbox containing a peanut butter sandwich, apple slices, and the chocolate chip cookies Rachel had baked the night before. "Em, hurry up, sweetie. You're going to be late," Rachel called through the screen door, wiping her hands on a kitchen towel. She had morning shift at Cherry Hill Medical Center where she worked as a nurse, and her schedule was always tight on Wednesdays. Emily looked up, her bright blue eyes sparkling with that innocent joy that only 7-year-olds possess. "I'm almost ready, Mom. Mrs. Henderson said we're going to learn about butterflies today in science class." Rachel smiled, her heart swelling with that particular brand of love that mothers feel, protective, proud, and perpetually worried. "That's wonderful, baby. Remember to look both ways before crossing." "I know, Mom," Emily interrupted, giggling as she hoisted her backpack onto her small shoulders. "You tell me every single day." The walk to Cherry Hill Elementary was exactly 7 minutes from their house. Rachel had timed it dozens of times. The route was simple and safe. Straight down Maple Avenue for 3 blocks, left on Church Road past the old Presbyterian church with its white steeple, then right onto School Lane where the elementary school sat behind a wide lawn dotted with oak trees. Other children from the neighborhood took the same route, and there were always parents, joggers, and dog walkers out on the streets. It was one of the safest neighborhoods in South Jersey, with a crime rate so low that most people didn't bother locking their doors during the day. Rachel had let Emily walk to school alone for the first time just 2 weeks earlier, after months of Emily begging for the independence. "All the other kids do it, Mom. I'm not a baby anymore," she had pleaded. Rachel had resisted, but her husband David had gently reminded her that they couldn't keep Emily in a bubble forever. They had walked the route together multiple times, established rules: no talking to strangers, stay on the sidewalk, come straight home after school, and finally, reluctantly, Rachel had agreed. Those 2 weeks had gone perfectly. Emily had walked to school and back without incident, waving to Mr. Chen at the corner store, saying hello to Mrs. Kowalski, who was always gardening in her front yard, and arriving home each afternoon with stories about her day. Rachel had begun to relax, to feel that perhaps she had been overprotective, that Cherry Hill really was as safe as everyone said. "Have a great day, sweetheart," Rachel called as Emily skipped down the porch steps, her ponytail swinging. "I love you." "Love you too, Mom," Emily's voice carried back, sweet and clear in the crisp morning air. Rachel watched until Emily reached the end of the driveway, then turned back into the house to grab her own bag and car keys. She had exactly 15 minutes to get to the hospital. She took one last sip of coffee, checked that the stove was off, and locked the front door behind her. As she backed her silver Honda out of the driveway, she caught a glimpse of Emily's pink jacket turning the corner onto Church Road. It was the last time Rachel Parker would see her daughter for 14 years. By noon, the first threads of panic had begun to weave through Cherry Hill Elementary. Emily Parker hadn't shown up for attendance in Mrs. Henderson's second-grade classroom. The school secretary, following protocol, called the Parker residence. No answer. She left a voicemail, her tone professionally concerned but not yet alarmed. Students missed school all the time. Illness, dentist appointments, family emergencies. But protocol required notification. At 12:47 p.m., Rachel Parker's cell phone rang while she was checking vitals on a patient in the cardiac unit. She saw the school's number, and her stomach immediately tightened with maternal instinct. She excused herself and answered in the hallway. "Mrs. Parker, this is Linda Chen from Cherry Hill Elementary. We're just calling to confirm that Emily is homesick today. She wasn't in class this morning and we don't have a note on file." The words hit Rachel like ice water. "What? No, Emily's not sick. I watched her leave for school this morning. She left the house at 7:35. There was a pause on the other end. "Mrs. Parker, Emily never arrived at school today. Her teacher marked her absent at 8:15. The phone nearly slipped from Rachel's trembling hand. That's impossible. She left here almost 5 hours ago. The walk takes 7 minutes. She knows the route. Professional training kicked in even as terror flooded her system. She was already running toward the elevator, her voice sharp with rising panic. I'm calling the police. Send someone to check the route between my house and the school. Now. Rachel's hands shook so violently she could barely dial 911. The operator's calm voice asking her to describe the emergency felt surreal, like she was watching herself from outside her body. My daughter didn't make it to school. She left at 7:35 this morning. She's 7 years old. Blonde hair, blue eyes, pink jacket, purple backpack. Please, you have to find her. Please. Within 20 minutes, Cherry Hill Police Department had officers canvassing the neighborhood. Within an hour, Detective James Morrison of the Camden County Prosecutor's Office had been assigned to the case. By 3 p.m., Emily Parker's smiling school photo was being distributed to every officer in South Jersey, and the local news stations had been alerted. By 5 p.m., the story was breaking on Philadelphia's evening news. 7-year-old girl missing in Cherry Hill. Amber Alert issued. Rachel Parker stood in her living room, surrounded by police officers taking notes, asking questions, requesting recent photos of Emily. David Parker had rushed home from his job at the accounting firm in downtown Philadelphia, his face ashen with shock. Neighbors gathered on the lawn, whispering, crying, organizing search parties. Detective Morrison, a weathered man in his 50s with kind eyes that had seen too much tragedy, sat across from Rachel at her dining room table. Mrs. Parker, I need you to walk me through this morning again. Every detail, no matter how small. Rachel's voice was hoarse from crying. She left at 7:35. I watched her from the window. She was wearing her pink jacket and carrying her purple backpack. She was excited about learning about butterflies in science class. Her voice broke. She looked so happy. Did you see anyone else on the street? Any cars? Anything unusual? No, nothing. It was just a normal morning, just normal. The word felt obscene now, toxic. The break in the case came at 6:23 p.m., just as the October sun was setting and bathing Cherry Hill in golden light that seemed cruel in its beauty. A patrol officer radioing in from Church Road, his voice tight with controlled urgency. Detective Morrison, we found something. You need to see this. At the corner of Church Road and Maple Avenue, in the carefully maintained lawn of the Cherry Hill Presbyterian Church, lay Emily Parker's purple backpack. It sat there innocently, as if Emily had simply set it down to tie her shoe and forgotten it. But Emily never forgot her backpack. Rachel had taught her to be responsible, to keep track of her belongings. The backpack was unzipped. Inside, officers found Emily's lunchbox, her textbooks, and a small stuffed rabbit she'd named Mr. Hoppers. Everything was there, but Emily wasn't. Detective Morrison crouched beside the backpack, his latex-gloved hands careful not to disturb potential evidence. The church lawn stretched empty and silent around him. Across the street, an elderly woman named Margaret Foster stood on her porch, her small terrier on a leash watching the police activity with wide, frightened eyes. Morrison approached her. Ma'am, did you see anything unusual this morning? Around 7:30 or 7:45? Margaret Foster's voice trembled. I walk Buttons every morning at 7:30. Same route, same time every day. This morning, I was right here on this sidewalk. She pointed with a shaking finger. I saw a little girl in a pink jacket walking toward the church. She was alone, carrying a purple backpack. Did you see what happened to her? The old woman's eyes filled with tears. There was a car. Blue sedan, I think. Maybe a Honda or Toyota. I'm not good with car models. It was going slowly. Too slowly for a regular commute. It pulled up alongside the girl near the church. I remember thinking it was odd, but then Buttons pulled on the leash and I looked away for just a moment. When I looked back, her voice failed her. The car was driving away, and the little girl was gone. Just gone. I didn't think anything of it at the time. I thought maybe her mother had come to pick her up. I didn't know. Oh God, I should have known. Detective Morrison placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. Ma'am, you did nothing wrong. Can you remember anything else about the car? License plate? Any distinguishing marks? It was blue. Dark blue, I think. New Jersey plates, but I couldn't read the numbers. The driver. I barely saw them. Just a silhouette. Could have been a man or a woman. I honestly can't say. As night fell over Cherry Hill, the search intensified. Volunteers with flashlights combed through yards, parks, and wooded areas. Helicopters with thermal imaging cameras swept overhead. K-9 units tracked Emily's scent from the backpack to the exact spot where Margaret Foster had seen the blue car, and then the trail went cold, simply vanished, as if Emily Parker had been erased from existence. At 11 p.m., Rachel Parker sat in Emily's bedroom, clutching Mr. Hoppers, the stuffed rabbit that had been returned to her from the recovered backpack. The room still smelled like her daughter, that sweet combination of strawberry shampoo and childhood innocence. Emily's bed was neatly made, her dolls arranged on the shelf, her drawings of butterflies taped to the walls, everything waiting for her to come home. Detective Morrison stood in the doorway, his face grave. "Mrs. Parker, we're doing everything we can. Every available officer is on this case. The FBI's child abduction rapid deployment team is being called in. We will find Emily." But even as he said the words, he knew the statistics. He knew that the first 24 hours were critical, and those hours were already slipping away. He knew that most children abducted by strangers don't survive past the first day. He knew all of this, but he looked into Rachel Parker's devastated eyes and he held on to hope anyway, because that's all he could offer her. Rachel didn't sleep that night. She sat in Emily's room, holding Mr. Hoppers, waiting for her daughter to come home. Outside, the search continued through the darkness, flashlight beams cutting through the October night like desperate prayers. Somewhere in New Jersey, Emily Parker's 7th year of life had been stolen, and 14 years would pass before the truth would finally, impossibly, come to light. The first 72 hours after Emily's disappearance were a blur of frantic activity that would haunt Rachel Parker for years to come. The small colonial house on Maple Avenue transformed into a command center, with FBI agents setting up equipment in the dining room, phone lines installed to trace potential ransom calls that never came, and a constant stream of investigators, volunteers, and media representatives flowing through the front door. Detective James Morrison worked alongside FBI Special Agent Catherine Wells, a specialist in child abduction cases from the Philadelphia field office. Agent Wells was a sharp woman in her early 40s, with steel gray eyes that missed nothing, and a reputation for relentless dedication. She had worked dozens of these cases, and she knew the grim statistics better than anyone. But she also knew that statistics meant nothing when you were looking into a mother's desperate eyes. "Mrs. Parker, I need to ask you some difficult questions," Agent Wells said on the second day, sitting across from Rachel in the living room, while David paced nervously by the window. "I know this is painful, but we have to eliminate all possibilities." Rachel's face was swollen from crying, her voice raw. "Ask me anything. Anything that helps find Emily. Has Emily ever run away from home? Even for a short time?" "Never. She's 7 years old. She loves her home, her school, her friends. She had no reason to run." "Are you and your husband having any marital problems? Any custody disputes?" David turned from the window, his voice sharp with pain. "We're fine. We're a normal, happy family. We love our daughter. Neither of us would ever hurt her." Agent Wells nodded, her expression neutral but compassionate. "I have to ask, what about extended family? Anyone who might have taken Emily?" "My parents are dead," Rachel said quietly. "David's parents live in Florida. They're in their 70s. We have no family disputes. No one who would do this." The questions continued, probing every corner of their lives. Finances were examined, phone records pulled, computer hard drives analyzed. Every friend, neighbor, co-worker, and acquaintance was interviewed. The FBI looked at registered sex offenders within a 50-mile radius, tracking down and investigating each one. They reviewed surveillance footage from every traffic camera, gas station, and business along the possible routes out of Cherry Hill. The blue sedan became the focus of the investigation. Margaret Foster worked with a sketch artist to describe what she remembered, but her recollection was frustratingly vague. Blue, 4-door sedan, possibly a Honda Accord or Toyota Camry, approximately 3 to 5 years old. New Jersey plates. The description fit thousands of vehicles in the tri-state area. Every single one had to be checked. By the 4th day, the story had exploded across national media. Emily's school photo, her bright blue eyes, blonde ponytail, and gap-toothed smile, appeared on every news channel, every newspaper, every milk carton. "Have you seen this child?" Posters went up on telephone poles and store windows at rest stops along every highway in the Northeast. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children featured Emily on their website and distributed her photo to organizations across the country. Cherry Hill rallied around the Parker family with extraordinary compassion. Neighbors organized meal trains, businesses donated reward money, and volunteers established search parties that combed through every park, forest, and abandoned building in South Jersey. The community center became coordination headquarters, with maps on the walls marking searched areas and tips that needed follow-up. Rachel appeared on every local news program that would have her, clutching Emily's stuffed rabbit, pleading directly into the camera. "If you have my daughter, please bring her home. She needs her medicine for her allergies. She's afraid of the dark. She needs her mother. Emily, baby, if you can hear me, Mommy loves you. We're looking for you. We will never stop looking for you." The tips poured in, hundreds, then thousands of them. Each one had to be investigated, no matter how unlikely. A girl matching Emily's description was spotted at a rest stop in Delaware. Officers rushed there to find it was a different child. Someone claimed to have seen Emily getting into a white van in Atlantic City. Another dead end. A psychic called to say she'd had a vision of Emily near water. Search teams dragged 3 local ponds and found nothing. Detective Morrison worked the case with obsessive dedication, surviving on coffee and 3 hours of sleep a night. He personally reviewed every tip, every piece of evidence, every statement. He interviewed Margaret Foster 6 more times, hoping she might remember some additional detail about the blue car. He walked the route from the Parker house to the church dozens of times at different times of day, trying to understand the abductor's thinking. Whoever took Emily knew the neighborhood, Morrison told Agent Wells one evening as they reviewed case files in the makeshift command center. They knew the route she walked, knew the timing, knew there was a brief window where she'd be alone near the church. This wasn't random. Agent Wells studied the map on the wall, pins marking Emily's house, the church, the school, and various points of interest. "You're thinking someone local? Someone who watched her?" "Has to be. This was planned." They knew when parents would have dropped their kids off and gone to work. They knew where the blind spots were, where there weren't many witnesses. Morrison's jaw tightened. The question is, who? The investigation turned toward anyone who had regular access to Emily. Teachers, school staff, coaches, neighbors. Denise Rowe's name appeared in the files early on. She had been the Parker family's babysitter 3 years earlier, watching Emily occasionally when Rachel worked late shifts. But the connection seemed tenuous. Denise had stopped babysitting when she moved to Philadelphia in 2007, and the Parkers had barely stayed in touch with her. When investigators went to interview Denise Rowe at her last known address in Philadelphia, they found the apartment abandoned. The landlord said she'd moved out 6 months earlier, leaving no forwarding address. Her cell phone was disconnected. Her employment history showed she'd worked briefly at a daycare center, but had been let go for undisclosed reasons. Investigators tried to track her through utility records, credit cards, and DMV records, but the trail went cold somewhere in Pennsylvania. "Denise Rowe is a person of interest," Agent Wells noted in her case file, "but we have no evidence, no motive, and no way to locate her. Without more to go on, we can't make her a priority." Weeks turned into months. The massive search operations gradually scaled down as leads dried up. The FBI and local police continued to work the case, but with fewer resources as other emergencies demanded attention. The media coverage diminished. Emily's story pushed aside by fresher tragedies. The volunteers returned to their normal lives, though many continued to think of the little girl in the pink jacket and say prayers for her safe return. Rachel Parker refused to accept that her daughter might be gone forever. She maintained Emily's bedroom exactly as it had been on October 14, 2009. The bed stayed made with the butterfly-patterned comforter. Emily's clothes remained in the dresser. Her drawings stayed taped to the walls. Rachel changed the calendar in Emily's room every month, marking off days waiting. She quit her job at the hospital. She couldn't focus on work while Emily was missing. Instead, she became a full-time advocate for missing children. She organized annual vigils every October 14th at the Cherry Hill Presbyterian Church, where Emily's backpack had been found. Hundreds of people attended those first few years, holding candles and singing songs and displaying Emily's photo. Rachel spoke at every vigil, her voice steady with determination, even as tears streamed down her face. "Emily is still out there," she would say each year. "I know she is. A mother knows. And I will never stop looking for her. Never." David Parker handled his grief differently. He threw himself into his work, spending 12-hour days at the accounting firm, avoiding the house where every corner held memories of his daughter. His marriage to Rachel began to strain under the weight of their shared trauma. They coped in different ways. Rachel consumed by the search, David trying desperately to move forward, and the gap between them widened. They separated in 2012, though they never divorced. David moved to an apartment in Philadelphia, unable to live in the house where Emily's ghost seemed to haunt every room. He still loved Rachel, still loved Emily, but the pain was too much to bear in that place. He attended the annual vigils, contributed to the reward fund, but he had quietly begun to accept what Rachel refused to, that Emily was probably dead, that they would likely never know what happened to her. Detective Morrison retired from the Camden County Prosecutor's Office in 2014, but he never closed Emily's case in his mind. He kept a copy of all the files in his home office, reviewing them periodically, hoping some new angle might reveal itself. He stayed in touch with Rachel, calling her every few months to let her know he hadn't forgotten, that he still believed answers were possible. Agent Wells moved on to other cases, other missing children, other desperate parents. She had done everything she could for Emily Parker, but the FBI couldn't devote unlimited resources to a case with no leads. Emily's file was officially designated as cold in 2016, though it was never formally closed. Wells kept Emily's photo on her desk as a reminder of the ones who got away, the cases that stayed unsolved despite everyone's best efforts. By 2020, 11 years after Emily's disappearance, most people in Cherry Hill had moved on with their lives. New families moved into the neighborhood. Children who had never heard of Emily Parker walked the same route to Cherry Hill Elementary. The posters faded from telephone poles, the reward fund remained unclaimed, and Emily Parker became another tragic statistic in the database of missing children. But Rachel Parker never moved on. She kept Emily's room unchanged, attended support groups for parents of missing children, and maintained a Facebook page dedicated to finding Emily, posting updates and sharing age progression photos created by forensic artists, showing what Emily might look like at 10, at 12, at 15 years old. On the 10th anniversary vigil in 2019, only about 40 people showed up at the church, compared to the hundreds who had come in the early years. Rachel stood before them, holding a framed photo of Emily, her voice still strong despite a decade of heartbreak. "My daughter would be 17 years old today," she said. "I don't know if she's alive or dead. I don't know if she remembers me, remembers her home, remembers the life she had before. But I know this. I am still her mother. I will always be her mother. And I will never stop believing that someday, somehow, I will find out what happened to my little girl." In the audience that night was a young FBI agent named Marcus Chen, newly assigned to the Philadelphia field office. He had heard about the Emily Parker case during his training. It was sometimes used as an example of a case that had gone cold despite massive investigative efforts. Something about Rachel Parker's determination moved him. After the vigil, he introduced himself. "Mrs. Parker, I'm Agent Chen with the FBI. I'm relatively new, but I've read your daughter's case file. With your permission, I'd like to take a fresh look at it with some of our newer technologies." Rachel's eyes, dulled by years of disappointment, flickered with hope. "What kind of technologies?" "Facial recognition software has advanced significantly in the past few years. We're building databases that can compare photos across social media, driver's licenses, school records. If Emily is out there, if she's alive and living under a different name, there's a chance we might find her." It was a slim chance, Chen knew, but it was something. And for Rachel Parker, something was better than nothing. She gripped his hand tightly. "Please, please try. She's out there. I know she is." Agent Chen began his review in early 2020, but the COVID-19 pandemic brought everything to a halt for nearly 2 years. When he finally returned to the Emily Parker case in late 2022, he approached it with fresh eyes and powerful new tools. He input Emily's facial measurements into the FBI's next-generation identification system, which could compare faces against millions of records. The algorithm ran for days, analyzing thousands of potential matches. Most were quickly eliminated. Wrong age, wrong location, wrong background. But one match, flagged in January 2023, made Agent Chen sit up in his chair and stare at his screen in disbelief. A driver's license photo from Pennsylvania. A young woman, 21 years old, named Amelia Rowe. The facial recognition software indicated a 94% probability of a match with Emily Parker's age-progressed images. Chen immediately pulled up everything he could find on Amelia Rowe. She lived in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, about 90 miles from Cherry Hill. According to records, she had been homeschooled her entire life. No birth certificate on file in Pennsylvania. Social Security number issued in 2010, 1 year after Emily's disappearance. Legal guardian listed as Denise Rowe. Denise Rowe, the former babysitter who had disappeared after Emily's abduction. Agent Chen's heart was racing as he picked up the phone to call his supervisor. This was it. After 14 years, they might finally have found Emily Parker. Agent Marcus Chen sat in the FBI Philadelphia field office conference room on a cold February morning in 2023, presenting his findings to a team that included his supervisor, Special Agent in Charge Barbara Rodriguez, 2 other agents, a forensic analyst, and Detective James Morrison, who had come out of retirement specifically for this meeting. The facial recognition software identified a 94% probability match, Chen explained, displaying side-by-side images on the screen. On the left was Emily Parker's age-progressed photo from 2022, showing what she might look like at 21. On the right was Amelia Rowe's driver's license photo from Pennsylvania. The resemblance was striking. The same wide-set blue eyes, the same delicate bone structure, the same slight asymmetry in the smile. Morrison leaned forward, his weathered hands clasped tightly on the table. 94%. That's significant. It gets better, Chen continued, pulling up more data. Amelia Rowe's Social Security number was issued in April 2010, 6 months after Emily Parker disappeared. Her legal guardian is listed as Denise Rowe, age 53, who was Emily Parker's former babysitter. Denise Rowe left Cherry Hill in 2007 and disappeared from our radar in 2009. Right around the time Emily was taken, Agent Rodriguez studied the images carefully. What's Amelia Rowe's background? Homeschooled her entire life, according to Pennsylvania education records. No birth certificate on file anywhere in the United States under that name. She enrolled in community college in 2020, studying nursing. Works part-time at a grocery store in Lancaster. No criminal record, no red flags. By all appearances, she's a normal young woman. Except she might not be Amelia Rowe at all, Morrison said quietly. Chen nodded. The pieces fit too perfectly to ignore. Denise Rowe worked for the Parker family. She had access to Emily, knew her routines, knew the neighborhood. She disappeared right when Emily was abducted. And now we find this girl, the right age, living with Denise Rowe, with no verifiable birth records and a social security number that didn't exist before 2010. Rodriguez tapped her pen against her notepad. What do we know about Denise Rowe's background? Her mental state, motive? Chen pulled up another file. Denise Rowe, now 53 years old, has a complicated history. Court records show that in 2006, she lost custody of her biological daughter Jennifer, who was 5 at the time. The father was awarded full custody after a contentious divorce. Denise was deemed mentally unstable. She had been hospitalized twice for severe depression and anxiety. She was obsessed with getting her daughter back, violated custody arrangements multiple times, and was eventually granted only supervised visitation rights. A woman who lost her own child, Morrison said, understanding dawning in his eyes. She was working for the Parkers around that same time period. Exactly. She babysat Emily Parker intermittently between 2006 and 2007, right when her own daughter was taken away from her. Then she moved to Philadelphia, worked briefly at a daycare until she was fired. The reasons are sealed, but I'm working on getting those records unsealed. And then she vanished in mid-2009. Rodriguez stood and walked to the window thinking, here's what we need. First, we need a DNA sample from Amelia Rowe to compare with Rachel Parker's DNA. But we can't just walk up and ask for it without probable cause, and if we spook Denise Rowe, she might run again. We need to be smart about this. What if we approached Amelia directly? One of the other agents suggested. If she's really Emily Parker, she's a victim, she has a right to know the truth. But if she's been living as Amelia Rowe for 14 years, believing Denise is her biological mother, the psychological impact could be devastating, Chen countered. We need to handle this delicately. Morrison spoke up, his voice carrying the weight of experience. I think we need to do surveillance first. Watch them, document their routines, make absolutely certain of what we're dealing with before we make a move. If this really is Emily, we only get one chance to do this right. And Rachel Parker. His voice caught slightly. Rachel has been waiting 14 years. We can't give her hope unless we're absolutely certain. The team agreed. For the next 3 weeks, FBI agents conducted discreet surveillance on Amelia Rowe and Denise Rowe in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. They lived in a small, well-maintained house on a quiet street on the west side of the city. Denise worked from home as a medical transcriptionist. Amelia attended classes at Lancaster Community College 3 days a week and worked at a Wegmans grocery store on weekends. The surveillance team observed what appeared to be a normal mother-daughter relationship. They were seen grocery shopping together, eating at local restaurants, attending church on Sundays. Amelia seemed happy, well-adjusted, comfortable in her life. There was no indication of abuse, no signs of captivity or coercion. To all outside appearances, they were simply an ordinary family. But Agent Chen noticed something peculiar in his deep dive into their background. Denise Rowe had no social media presence, no online footprint beyond what was absolutely necessary. Amelia's social media accounts didn't exist before 2019, when she would have been 17, unusual for someone of her generation. And in the few photos Amelia had posted, there were no childhood pictures, no baby photos, nothing from before her teenage years. It was as if Amelia Rowe's life had begun at age 7. On March 15, 2023, the FBI decided to make their move. They needed a DNA sample from Amelia, but they needed to obtain it legally and without alerting Denise Rowe. The solution came through the grocery store where Amelia worked. Agent Chen, posing as a regular customer, visited the Wegmans on a Saturday afternoon when he knew Amelia would be working. He purchased items that required her to handle them extensively: a coffee cup, water bottles, then carefully collected those items as evidence after she'd scanned them. The forensic team was able to lift partial DNA profiles from the fingerprints and touch DNA left on the surfaces, but they needed more for a definitive match. The opportunity came a week later, when Amelia attended a blood drive at her community college as part of a nursing class requirement. Through careful coordination with college officials, who were informed of the sensitive nature of the investigation, the FBI was able to obtain a small sample of the blood that Amelia donated, with a court order issued by a federal judge who reviewed the evidence in camera. The DNA analysis took 4 days. Agent Chen barely slept during that time, reviewing the case files obsessively, preparing for both outcomes. If it was a match, they would need to coordinate with local police, social services, prosecutors, and mental health professionals. If it wasn't a match, he would have to accept that the facial recognition software had led them down a false path, and Emily Parker would remain missing. On March 27, 2023, the results came back. Dr. Patricia Walsh, the FBI's forensic analyst, called Agent Chen into her lab. Her face was pale, her hands trembling slightly as she held the report. "Marcus, you need to see this." Chen's heart was pounding as he read the analysis. Mitochondrial DNA comparison between Amelia Rowe and Rachel Parker, 99.9% probability of maternal relationship. Nuclear DNA markers consistent with biological mother-daughter relationship. Statistical probability of error, less than 0, or a 1%. "It's her," Chen whispered. "Oh my God, it's really her." Dr. Walsh nodded slowly. "Amelia Rowe is Emily Parker. There's no doubt." The news hit the FBI office like a bomb. After 14 years against all odds, Emily Parker had been found alive. The case that everyone had assumed would end in tragedy had just taken an impossible turn. Agent Rodriguez immediately assembled a crisis response team. They needed to plan the approach carefully: how to confront Denise Rowe, how to break the news to Amelia, and how to tell Rachel Parker that her daughter was alive without causing further trauma to everyone involved. Detective Morrison insisted on being the one to tell Rachel. "I was there the day Emily disappeared," he said. "I made Rachel a promise that I'd never stop looking. I need to be the one to tell her we found her daughter." On March 29, 2023, Detective Morrison drove to Cherry Hill and parked outside the house on Maple Avenue. It looked exactly as it had 14 years earlier, perhaps a bit more weathered, the paint slightly faded. He knew that inside, Emily's room remained unchanged, a shrine to a missing child. Rachel answered the door. She was 52 now, but grief had aged her beyond her years. Her hair, once dark, was streaked with gray. Her eyes still held that haunted look of a mother who had lost her child. "Detective Morrison," she said, surprised. "I wasn't expecting—" "Rachel, I need you to sit down. I have news about Emily." The color drained from Rachel's face. She gripped the doorframe for support. Is she dead?" Morrison's eyes filled with tears as he shook his head. "No, Rachel, she's alive. We found her. Emily is alive." Rachel's legs gave out. Morrison caught her, helped her to the couch where she collapsed, sobbing uncontrollably. The words she had waited 14 years to hear had finally come, and the flood of emotions was overwhelming. Joy, relief, disbelief, anger, confusion, all crashing over her at once. "Where?" she gasped between sobs. "Where is she? Can I see her? Is she okay?" Morrison explained everything as gently as he could. Emily had been living in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, under the name Amelia Rowe. She had been raised by Denise Rowe, the former babysitter, who had abducted her in 2009. Emily believed Denise was her biological mother. She had no memory of her life before age 7, no idea that she was a missing child, no knowledge that her real mother had been searching for her for 14 years. Rachel listened in stunned silence, trying to process the impossible information. Her daughter was alive, but she was also gone. The 7-year-old who had skipped off to school that October morning no longer existed. In her place was a 21-year-old woman who didn't know Rachel existed. Does Emily know yet? Rachel asked, her voice barely a whisper. Not yet. The FBI is coordinating with psychologists about the best way to tell her. This is going to be traumatic for her, Rachel. She's going to need time to process this. I don't care, Rachel said fiercely, gripping Morrison's hands. I don't care if she doesn't remember me. I don't care if she hates me. I don't care about any of it. She's alive. My daughter is alive. That's all that matters. But even as she said it, Rachel felt a terrible fear growing in her heart. What if Emily, Amelia, didn't want to be found? What if she was happy in her life and resented this disruption? What if the reunion Rachel had dreamed about for 14 years turned into a nightmare for them both? The next morning, March 30th, 2023, FBI agents and Lancaster police officers executed a warrant at the Rowe residence. Denise Rowe was arrested on charges of kidnapping, custodial interference, falsifying documents, and identity fraud. She didn't resist. When the officers told her they knew Amelia was really Emily Parker, Denise simply nodded and said, "I knew this day would come eventually." Amelia was at her community college class when the arrest happened. Agent Chen and a trauma psychologist named Dr. Sarah Lynn met her in a private office at the college where they gently, carefully told her the truth about her identity. "Amelia, I'm Agent Chen with the FBI. This is Dr. Lynn. We need to talk to you about something very important regarding your family." Amelia looked confused and frightened. "What's wrong? Is Denise okay? Did something happen?" "Denise is physically fine, but she's been arrested." "Amelia, what I'm about to tell you is going to be very difficult to hear. I need you to try to stay calm and know that we're here to support you through this." Agent Chen showed her Emily Parker's missing child poster from 2009, the photo of the 7-year-old girl with blonde ponytail and gap-toothed smile. "Do you recognize this child?" Amelia stared at the poster, her brow furrowed. "No, should I?" "Amelia, this is you. Your name isn't Amelia Rowe. Your real name is Emily Parker. You were abducted from Cherry Hill, New Jersey in October 2009 when you were 7 years old. The woman you know as your mother, Denise Rowe, kidnapped you. She's not your biological mother." The words hung in the air like poison. Amelia's face went through a rapid series of expressions: confusion, disbelief, denial, anger, and finally, a terrible dawning horror. "No," she whispered. "No, that's not true. That can't be true. My mother would never." "We have DNA evidence," Dr. Lynn said gently. "We've compared your DNA to your biological mother's DNA. There's no doubt, Amelia. You are Emily Parker." Amelia stood up abruptly, backing away from them. "This is insane. You're wrong. There's been some kind of mistake. I know who I am. I'm Amelia Rowe. I've always been Amelia Rowe." Agent Chen pulled out photos of Rachel Parker, of the house on Maple Avenue, of the bedroom that had remained unchanged for 14 years. "Your biological mother never stopped looking for you. She never gave up hope. Her name is Rachel Parker, and she wants very much to see you." Amelia looked at the photos, her hands shaking violently. Something deep in her mind stirred. A fragment of memory, perhaps, or just the recognition of truth despite her desperate desire to deny it. Tears streamed down her face as her entire identity shattered like glass. "I don't know who I am anymore," she whispered, echoing the words she would say weeks later when she finally met Rachel face to face. The days following the revelation were a blur of psychological evaluations, legal proceedings, and media chaos. The story of Emily Parker's recovery broke on April 2nd, 2023, and within hours it had become national news. "Missing girl found alive after 14 years" dominated every headline. News trucks descended on both Cherry Hill and Lancaster. Reporters camped outside Rachel Parker's house in the FBI field office, desperate for interviews, photos, any scrap of information about the miraculous recovery. Amelia, she still thought of herself as Amelia, unable to reconcile the name Emily with her sense of self, was placed in protective custody at a secure location while psychologists worked with her to process the traumatic revelation. Dr. Sarah Lynn, a specialist in trauma and dissociative disorders, met with her daily, helping her navigate the psychological earthquake that had shattered her world. "It's normal to feel confused, angry, and even grief," Dr. Lin explained during one of their sessions. "You're mourning the loss of your identity, the loss of the life you thought you had. That's a profound loss, even though objectively we know you were a victim." Amelia sat curled in an armchair in the safe house, wrapped in a blanket, her eyes red from crying. "I keep trying to remember, before I was 7, but there's nothing there. It's just blank, like my life started the day she took me. Life started the..." "That's common in childhood trauma," Dr. Lin said gently. "Your brain may have suppressed those early memories as a protective mechanism, or Denise may have actively worked to erase them. Do you remember her ever talking about your early childhood?" Amelia thought carefully. "She always said I was too young to remember, that my father had died before I was born, that we'd always been just the two of us. She homeschooled me because she said public schools were dangerous, that bad things happened to children there." A sob caught in her throat. "She was so protective. She never let me out of her sight. I thought it was because she loved me so much, but it was because she stole me." The psychological assessment revealed that Denise Rowe had been meticulous in her manipulation. She had created an entirely fictional history for Amelia, complete with fabricated stories about a dead father, a difficult birth, early childhood illnesses that explained why there were no baby photos. She had isolated Amelia through homeschooling, limited her social interactions, and carefully controlled all information that might have exposed the truth. Yet despite this control, Denise had genuinely loved Amelia in her own twisted way, had provided for her, cared for her, raised her to be a kind and educated young woman. "This is what makes it so complicated," Dr. Lin explained to Agent Chen during a case consultation. "Amelia wasn't physically abused. She wasn't neglected. By all accounts, Denise was a devoted, if overprotective mother. Amelia's attachment to her is real and deep. Learning that her entire life was built on a lie is psychologically devastating in ways that are difficult for outsiders to understand." Meanwhile, in a detention center in Lancaster, Denise Rowe sat in an interrogation room across from Agent Rodriguez and a prosecutor from the Camden County District Attorney's Office. Her lawyer sat beside her, but Denise had waived her right to remain silent. She wanted to talk. "I know what I did was wrong," Denise said, her voice calm but filled with deep sadness. "I've known it every day for 14 years, but I couldn't help myself. When I lost Jennifer, when they took my baby away from me, something broke inside. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. All I could think about was getting her back, but the courts wouldn't listen. They said I was unfit, that I was dangerous to my own child." "So you took someone else's child?" Rodriguez said, her voice hard. Denise's eyes filled with tears. "I was babysitting Emily regularly. She was so sweet, so loving, and I watched Rachel Parker take her for granted, dropping her off with me so she could work, always busy, always distracted. I thought Emily needed me more than Rachel appreciated her." "That's not your decision to make," the prosecutor interjected. "You destroyed that family. Rachel Parker spent 14 years in agony thinking her daughter was dead." "I know," Denise whispered. "I know, and I hate myself for it. But when I had Emily, when I had Amelia, the pain went away. I could be a mother again. I could do it right this time. I gave her everything. I protected her, educated her, loved her. I was a good mother to her." "You were a kidnapper," Rodriguez said coldly, "and now you'll spend the rest of your life in prison." Denise nodded slowly, accepting her fate. "I just want to see her one more time, Amelia. I want to tell her I'm sorry. I want her to know that even though everything was a lie, my love for her was real." The legal machinery moved swiftly. Denise Rowe was charged with first-degree kidnapping, custodial interference, multiple counts of fraud, and other related offenses. With overwhelming evidence against her and her own confession, her lawyer advised her to accept a plea deal. She was sentenced to 30 years in federal prison without possibility of parole. At her sentencing hearing, she read a statement apologizing to Rachel Parker and to Emily, acknowledging the magnitude of her crime while maintaining that she had genuinely loved the child she had stolen. Rachel Parker attended the sentencing, sitting in the front row staring at the woman who had destroyed her life for 14 years. When Denise turned to look at her, their eyes met, and Rachel saw something she hadn't expected: genuine remorse. It didn't matter. No amount of remorse could give her back those lost years, could return Emily's childhood to her. But the question that haunted everyone involved was, what now? Emily Parker had been found, but she was also gone. The 7-year-old girl who had disappeared no longer existed, and the 21-year-old woman who stood in her place had no connection to the identity she'd been told was hers. Dr. Lin worked with both Rachel and Amelia separately, preparing them for their first meeting. "This is going to be difficult for both of you," she told Rachel during a session. "Your daughter doesn't remember you. She doesn't remember her life before age 7. To her, you're a stranger, and she's mourning the only mother she's ever known, even though intellectually she understands that Denise committed a terrible crime." Rachel listened, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. "I understand. I just need to see her. I need her to know that I never stopped looking, that I never stopped loving her. She needs time, Rachel. She's processing a severe identity crisis. Don't expect an instant bond. This is going to be a long journey for both of you." The meeting was arranged for April 15, 2023, 2 weeks after Emily's identity had been confirmed. It would take place in a private room at a family services center, with Dr. Lin present to provide support. Rachel had barely slept for days, changing outfits a dozen times, practicing what she would say, terrified of saying the wrong thing and driving her daughter further away. David Parker flew in from Philadelphia for the meeting. Despite their separation, this was something they needed to do together. They sat in a waiting room holding hands for the first time in years, united in their anxiety and hope. When Dr. Lin came to get them, Rachel's heart was beating so hard she thought it might burst. "Are you ready?" Dr. Lin asked gently. Rachel nodded, unable to speak. David squeezed her hand. They walked down a hallway that seemed impossibly long. Dr. Lin opened a door to a comfortable room with soft lighting, a couch, some chairs, and a box of tissues on the coffee table. And there, standing by the window with her back to them, was their daughter. She turned around when they entered. Rachel's breath caught in her throat. The child she remembered, blonde ponytail, gap-toothed smile, pink jacket, was gone. In her place stood a young woman with long, dark blonde hair pulled back in a loose bun, wearing jeans and a simple sweater. Her eyes were the same brilliant blue Rachel remembered, but they were guarded now, filled with confusion and pain. For a moment, no one moved. Rachel and David stood frozen, staring at the daughter they'd lost, the stranger she'd become. "Emily," Rachel whispered, then caught herself. "I'm sorry, Amelia. I don't know what to call you." Amelia's voice was soft, uncertain. "I don't know either. I don't feel like Emily, but I don't know if I'm Amelia anymore either." Rachel took a tentative step forward. Every instinct screamed at her to run across the room and embrace her daughter, to hold her, and never let go. But she restrained herself, respecting the distance Amelia needed. "I'm your mother," Rachel said, her voice breaking. "Your biological mother. I know you don't remember me, but I remember you. I remember everything about you. The way you laughed, the way you loved butterflies, the way you hummed when you colored. I remember the day you were born, the first word you said, your first day of school. I remember all of it." Tears streamed down Amelia's face. "I wish I remembered. I've been trying, but there's nothing. It's like before I was 7, I didn't exist." David spoke up, his voice thick with emotion. "That's okay, sweetheart. That's not your fault. None of this is your fault. I don't know how to feel," Amelia said desperately. "I'm supposed to hate Denise for what she did, and I do, partly. But she's also the only mother I've ever known. She raised me. She loved me. How do I reconcile that with the fact that she destroyed your lives? That she stole me from you?" Dr. Lin stepped in gently. "Those conflicting feelings are normal, Amelia. Love and trauma can coexist. You can acknowledge that Denise cared for you while also recognizing the terrible crime she committed. Both things can be true." Rachel moved closer, slowly, as if approaching a frightened animal. "I don't expect you to immediately think of me as your mother. I don't expect you to love me right away. I just need you to know that I never stopped looking for you. For 14 years, every single day, I thought about you. I kept your room exactly the way it was. I held vigils every year on the anniversary of your disappearance. I never, ever gave up hope that I would find you." Amelia looked at this woman, her biological mother a stranger, and saw the evidence of those 14 years etched in her face. The gray hair, the lines around her eyes, the deep sadness that lived permanently in her expression. She saw the cost of loving her, of refusing to give up. "I'm sorry," Amelia whispered. "I'm so sorry for what you went through." "Don't apologize," Rachel said fiercely. "You have nothing to apologize for. You were 7 years old. You were taken. None of this is your fault." They talked for 2 hours that day. Dr. Lin guided the conversation, helping them navigate the impossibly complex emotions. David showed Amelia photos of her childhood, birthday parties, holidays, mundane moments captured in snapshots. Amelia stared at the images of a little blonde girl she didn't recognize, trying to connect that child to herself. Rachel told her about the search, about the endless nights of worry, about the community that had rallied around them. She told Amelia about the bedroom that had remained unchanged, waiting for her return. "Can I see it?" Amelia asked suddenly. "The room, my old room." Rachel's eyes widened with hope. "Of course, whenever you're ready." They arranged another meeting for the following week. This time at the house on Maple Avenue in Cherry Hill. Amelia would see the home she'd been taken from, the life that had been stolen from her. As the first meeting concluded, there was an awkward moment of departure. Amelia stood by the door, uncertain. Rachel desperately wanted to hug her daughter, but she held back, waiting for Amelia to make the first move. Amelia took a step forward, then another, and then suddenly she was in Rachel's arms, sobbing. Rachel held her, 14 years of longing pouring into that embrace. David wrapped his arms around both of them, and for just a moment they were a family again. Broken, traumatized, but together. "I don't know who I am anymore," Amelia cried against Rachel's shoulder, echoing the words she'd spoken when first learning the truth. Rachel stroked her hair, tears streaming down her own face. "You're my daughter. You always have been, even when you didn't know it. You always will be, no matter what name you choose. We'll figure out the rest together." When Amelia pulled away, she looked into Rachel's eyes and saw something there she'd never seen in Denise's gaze. A love without possession, without deception, without the desperation that had driven Denise to commit such a terrible act. This was a mother's love in its purest form, one that had endured through 14 years of absence and pain. "Can I call you Rachel for now?" Amelia asked hesitantly. "Until I figure things out? Mom feels too strange." Rachel's heart broke a little at the request, but she understood. "You can call me whatever makes you comfortable. I'll be here no matter what." The following week, on a warm April afternoon, Amelia returned to Cherry Hill for the first time in 14 years. Agent Chen drove her, with Dr. Lin accompanying them. As they turned onto Maple Avenue, Amelia stared out the window at the tree-lined street, searching her memory for any flicker of recognition. "Do you remember anything?" Dr. Lin asked gently. "No, it's all unfamiliar, like I'm visiting a place I've never been." But even as she said it, something tugged at the edges of her consciousness. Not quite a memory, but perhaps the shadow of one. Rachel and David waited on the porch as the car pulled in. Rachel had cleaned obsessively, wanting everything perfect. Her hands trembled as Amelia approached. "Welcome home," Rachel said, then hesitated. "I know this doesn't feel like home." "It's okay," Amelia replied softly. Inside, the house was filled with photos of young Emily. Amelia studied each one, searching for herself in the little girl's face. Upstairs, Rachel opened the second door on the right. Emily's room, preserved exactly as it had been in 2009. The butterfly comforter, the dolls, the drawings, everything frozen in time. Amelia stepped inside, picking up a stuffed rabbit. "Mr. Hoppers," she whispered. Rachel gasped. "Yes, you named him that." Tears overwhelmed Amelia. 14 years of stolen identity and buried memories surged all at once. Rachel embraced her as they sank onto the bed, both crying. "I remember," Amelia sobbed. "Just a flash, but I remember feeling safe." It was only one memory, but it was a beginning. The weeks that followed were filled with therapy, family meetings, and painful rediscoveries. Amelia took a leave from college, moving into a small apartment nearby while she worked with Dr. Sarah Lin. The FBI investigation revealed Denise Rowe's meticulous planning, fake IDs, cash-only transactions, and years of isolation. She believed she was saving Emily, Agent Chen told Rachel, but understanding her delusion helps us understand what your daughter endured. Amelia tried to piece together her past, sorting through boxes of childhood keepsakes, birthday photos, drawings, and old videos. Looking at a picture from her 7th birthday, she said quietly, "I still remember the word lepidopterist." Rachel smiled through tears. "You wanted to study butterflies. You said they were magic because they could go anywhere." David joined them, voice thick with emotion. "We never stopped loving you." "I want to know you," Amelia said. "But it's hard. I don't know who I am anymore. Emily or Amelia." "You're both," Dr. Lin later told her. "You don't have to erase one to reclaim the other." In June 2023, Amelia decided to face Denise in prison. "Behind the glass," she said firmly, My name is Emily Parker. Amelia Rowe never existed. Denise's voice trembled. You were the child I loved more than anything. You loved me so much you destroyed my life? Emily shot back. You stole me from my real mother. You built everything on lies. Denise broke down. I know. I told myself I was saving you, but it was selfish and unforgivable. Rachel never stopped searching, Emily said. That's what real love looks like. When the visit ended, Emily felt drained but clearer. The truth hurt, but it was finally hers. Denise nodded through tears. You're right, but please understand. Every moment I spent with you was real. The stories, the baking, the garden. My love for you was real, even if everything else was a lie. Amelia's tears fell freely. She couldn't simply hate Denise. 14 years of genuine affection couldn't be erased by one horrific truth. I don't know how to feel, Amelia whispered. Part of me hates you, but part of me still loves the woman who raised me. I don't expect forgiveness, Denise said softly. What I did was monstrous. But you were a child who deserved love, and I tried to give you that even though I had no right. After the visit, Amelia felt drained but lighter. What Denise did was unforgivable, she told Dr. Lin on the drive home. But her love wasn't false. I can hold both truths. Very insightful, Dr. Lin said. I'm sad, Amelia admitted. Sad for everyone, but grateful I was found. Grateful I can finally know my real family. By July 2023, she legally changed her name to Emily Amelia Parker, a bridge between the life stolen and the life reclaimed. I can't erase being Amelia, she told Rachel and David. But I want to honor Emily too, Rachel cried with joy. Emily spent more time on Maple Avenue, slowly rebuilding connections. Rachel shared recipes and stories from her early years. David drove in every weekend, making up for the lost time. I never stopped hoping, he told her. Emily squeezed his hand. None of this was your fault. The Cherry Hill community embraced her return. She declined interviews and book offers, choosing privacy, but agreed to speak at the annual vigil that October, 14 years after her disappearance. Standing before hundreds, she began, 14 years ago I was taken from this community. My mother never stopped searching. Because of her, I'm here. Her voice grew stronger. What happened to me was a terrible crime. It stole my childhood, but I survived. And to every family still searching, don't give up. Miracles do happen. Applause and tears filled the church. Rachel wrapped an arm around her daughter, David taking her hand. For the first time, Emily felt peace, whole if not unscarred. By winter 2024, she'd moved back home permanently. Snow fell outside as she stood in her restored bedroom, decorated with memories from both her lives, Emily and Amelia. On her desk sat 2 photos, one from her 7th birthday, one from her college pinning ceremony. Both girls were her, both real. Rachel entered with 2 mugs of hot chocolate. It's freezing out there. Thanks, Mom, Emily said. The words still made Rachel's eyes glisten. After years of loss, that single word meant everything. They sat together on the bed, watching the snow fall in silence. Over the past year, Rachel had learned to give Emily space, and Emily had learned to trust her mother's love again. I got accepted, Emily said suddenly, to Rutgers nursing program. I start in January. Rachel's face lit up. That's wonderful. I'm so proud of you. I thought about leaving, starting over somewhere no one knows me, Emily admitted. But I don't want to run anymore. This is my home. Rachel smiled. Whatever you decide, we'll support you. But I'm glad you're staying close. Emily leaned against her shoulder. We can't get back the years we lost, but we have now. That's enough. It's everything, Rachel whispered. David arrived later that afternoon, as he did every weekend since Emily's return. They'd built new traditions, Friday dinners, Saturday walks, Sunday brunches. That night, over Rachel's lasagna, they talked about Emily's plans. I've been thinking about psychiatric nursing, Emily said, helping trauma survivors. After everything with Dr. Lin, I know how much it matters. Rachel's eyes softened. That's a beautiful choice. You'll be amazing. After dinner, Agent Marcus Chen called. We're officially closing the Parker case tomorrow, he said. I wanted you to hear it from me first. Emily felt both relief and sadness. Thank you, Agent Chen, for bringing me home. It was an honor, he replied. The following week, Detective Morrison visited. He looked older but lighter, carrying a folder of reports and photos from the investigation. I promised your mother I'd never stop looking, he said, voice trembling. Seeing you here, it's the best ending I could have hoped for. Emily smiled gently. It's not really an ending. It's a new beginning. That night, Emily pored over the folder, seeing the vigils, search parties, and years of relentless effort that had brought her home. For the first time, she understood the full reach of what had been lost and what had been fought for. In February, she decided to speak publicly at a victims' advocacy conference. Rachel was hesitant, but Emily was certain. "If my story can give even one person hope," she said, "it's worth it." In March, standing before an audience of survivors, officers, and families, her hands trembled as she began. But in the front row, Rachel and David smiled proudly. Their presence reminded her just how far they had all come. "My name is Emily Amelia Parker," she began. 15 years ago, when I was 7, I was kidnapped on my way to school in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. I was held captive for 14 years under a false identity, believing my entire life was a lie. Through the dedication of law enforcement and advances in technology, I was found. I was given my life back. She spoke for half an hour, openly describing the confusion of rediscovering her identity, the trauma of loving her abductor, and the long process of reconnecting with her real family. "I'm not going to say everything's perfect now," she admitted. "I still have nightmares. I still question who I am. But I'm here, I'm alive, and I'm building a future. That's something I'll never take for granted." Her closing words resonated deeply. If you're a family of a missing child, don't give up. If you're a survivor, your feelings are valid. Recovery isn't linear. We need patience, compassion, and people who stay beside us. The crowd rose in applause. A mother of a missing girl hugged Emily and whispered, "You give me hope." That evening, Emily dined quietly with her parents, Rachel and David. "I'm proud of you," David said, raising his glass. "You're brave and compassionate. We're lucky to have you back." Emily smiled through tears. "I'm lucky too. Lucky to have a second chance at life." By May 2024, she was preparing to enter Rutgers nursing program and agreed to one major interview, on her own terms. Filmed in the Cherry Hill Presbyterian Church where her backpack had once been found, she answered the question everyone wanted to ask: "Do you forgive Denise Rowe?" "Forgiveness is complicated," Emily said. "What she did was unforgivable, but I recognize she was mentally ill and that she did love me, even if that love was built on lies. I can acknowledge both truths." When the interview aired to over 5 million viewers, tips poured into the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, leading to reopened cases. Emily read every letter she received, connecting with other survivors and families who understood pain and hope in equal measure. That October, 15 years after her abduction, she stood again at the Cherry Hill Vigil, not as a missing child, but as a survivor. "For 14 years I lived a lie," she told the crowd. "But I'm here now. Against all odds, I was found. My story proves that hope isn't foolish, that love endures even after unimaginable loss." With Rachel and David beside her, she finished, "I was lost, but now I'm found. No matter how dark it seems, never stop believing, never stop searching, never stop fighting for those you love." As the audience wept and applauded, Emily looked at the autumn sky, remembering the girl who loved butterflies. She was free now, transformed, alive, and whole. The Parker case was closed, but her story had only begun. She would become a psychiatric nurse specializing in trauma, using her own past to help others heal. Every October 14th, Emily would return to Cherry Hill, reminding the world that miracles happen, that lost children can be found, and that love, true, enduring love, can survive even the longest absence. Emily Amelia Parker was home, finally, eternally home.